Welcome back. My name is Mark Fritz, and with me is Chris Lyons. As you recall, the last time we were talking about the white spaces issue and the different types of users that might be affected, some of the different ways to communicate that issue to your clients and things like that. We're going to take a little bit of a different twist. This time we're going to take a look at the emerging technologies. And Chris, we keep hearing digital this, digital that. Are there any plans for a truly digital wireless mic to come into the market?
Well, there are some digital wireless microphones on the market already, but the bigger issue is that there are only a handful of segments of spectrum where wireless microphone operation is legal from the FCC. And in some of those parts of the spectrum you can do digital transmission, and in some you can't. For many years, the UHF TV spectrum has been the single biggest and best section of spectrum to be in, and that's where most wireless mic operations have been. So it's only been recently that other parts of the band have been explored, and each of them have their pluses and minuses.
Speaking of, we've heard a lot of people talking about 2.4, spread spectrum, frequency hopping, and things like that. Isn't there some concern that as microphone users try to switch over to that type of technology, that will start to have more interference with the existing technologies that are already there? Right,
that's really the biggest issue with any of these other parts of the spectrum is what other services are already using them. In the 900 megahertz range, the 2.4 gigahertz range, you've already got lots of industrial, scientific, medical equipment in those parts of the spectrum, as well as consumer products and services like Easy Pass toll readers and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth phone accessories and so forth. So all of those have the potential to interfere with wireless mic operations in those parts of the band.
What about infrared technology? We see a lot of that on the integration side. We see a lot of classroom enhancement systems using infrared. What are some advantages and disadvantages of that type of technology?
Well, infrared, one of the pluses of infrared is that it completely bypasses the whole issue of RF spectrum and frequency coordination and so forth and so on. So it's a great thing from that standpoint. There have always been some limitations on audio quality and on making sure you have line of sight between the transmitter and receiver and so forth. So it generally has never caught on with infrared wireless microphones for the sort of classic handheld mic and body pack system operation.
What about higher bands? We hear some users talking about 5 gig and maybe even beyond. Is that feasible with a wireless microphone?
It is. There's the possibility of ultra-wideband transmission in the band that extends from about 3 gigahertz up to as much as 10 gigahertz. The technology can work well. The problem is that the wavelengths become so short that the signal is greatly absorbed by the human body. So again, if it's a handheld mic or if it's a body pack transmitter on your hip, you're absorbing so much of the signal that the transmission doesn't go very far. But in a tabletop mic application like a conference room or a classroom, for instance, or maybe an altar in a house of worship where you just don't want any cables showing, it might be a possibility for that, and where the ranges are fairly short.
That brings up a good point, conference rooms and stuff like that. What about security issues? As we have more and more users, will we see more encryption on wireless mics to prevent corporate information leaking outside of the building, so to speak?
I think we will. The industry has been considering the issue of encryption for a long time, and as we have new motivation to consider digital transmission, I think encryption will be one of the things that rides along with that, because there are lots of different types of users completely outside the government and the military who, for whatever reason, are interested in more privacy for their wireless signals.
Okay. Backing up a little bit, we touched on it the first segment that we did, but here we are, we're on a verge of some technology that's going to have to change, and the end users are going to have to accept that. As an integrator, we're going to be faced with the challenge of presenting this new, improved technology to eliminate these problems, but at the same point we have to appear like we're not the bad guy. Any hints, any magic ball that you can kind of help us with on that?
Well, I don't know if I've got magic, but definitely here, the Microphone Industry Coalition has been representing the interests of the audio industry at the FCC and in Congress, and trying to make sure that they fully consider the impact of whatever they do and that they take appropriate interference protection measures. So if that works out the way it should, then there won't be many problems to deal with. However, what we want to do is make sure that integrators who deal with any professional audio product in the wireless realm are fully versed in how to present the facts to their customers, let them know what are the pluses and minuses of new technologies, and find out what it is that they need to do to ensure continued trouble-free operation. So the best advice for any integrator is talk to your vendors, talk to your manufacturers, and find out what are you doing, where are you going, and how can we work together to serve the end user.
As a representative of the industry, the Microphone Industry Coalition, do you know if they have any plans to put a little more of this in the public eye? Right now, probably industry, microphone users, manufacturers, integrators probably have some inkling of this. But there are a lot of end users, there are a lot of churches, a lot of schools, a lot of sports venues that have no clue that this is coming. Any advanced publicity that we see coming from the industry?
The story is starting to get a lot better coverage now. For a long time, it was only touring sound engineers and a handful of high-end integrators that were aware of this at all. And now the story is starting to trickle down to integrators and contractors at all levels. But the end users still are, to the most part, unaware of the DTV transition. And the FCC is dealing with trying to inform people about DTV channels and DTV transmission. I think at the same time, we need to make sure that industry publications that serve house of worship, technology ministers, and people who handle events at venues and performance venues and so forth are seeing articles in their publications geared to them with the right level of information for them.
Okay, well, thank you. You're watching Viewpoint. We're going to take a short break, so please be sure to tune back in. Thank you.
The Crestron MPS integrates 5 separate AV components into a single rack-mountable package. MPS brings a complete presentation control and signal routing solution to boardrooms, classrooms, and auditoriums. MPS works right out of the box and may be controlled directly from the front panel. MPS from Crestron.